Ah, here you are. I'm glad you dropped by. Although, you know, I haven't talked about any of this for quite some time. People look at you, and you can tell what they're thinking. We soon learned to keep quiet, to keep it to ourselves. And by we, I mean Barbara and me. We both taught at the same school. When we did tell people, some of them really did understand. Yes, I feel I can tell you. The doctor. He was old when I was young. Somehow I still feel he's up there in his lunatic ship, righting wrongs, still specializing in trouble. He dives in and usually finds a way out. He showed me so many things, so many. From the talking stones of Tyron to the witch trials of Salem. Oh yes, we often got stuck in the past, caught up in history, as the old boy tried to find our way home. It amuses me to have this in the house. I was never really one for souvenirs and acquired it long after the event. But every time I notice it, I'm reminded that if I wanted half the world to think I was mad, I could call myself Sir Ian Chesterton, knighted by Richard the Lionheart himself over 700 years ago. It sounds ridiculous. Fantastic. Well, it was a fantastic adventure. One of many. One of many. Let me tell you about it. King Richard was a stubborn man, but it wasn't just pride with him. He was clever. He knew when he was being manipulated. The doctor and de Tournebou convinced him that he could save face by trading with Saladin. And with that thought in mind, he introduced us to his sister, the Princess Joanna. I remember she showed a particular interest in Vicky, who we were trying to pass off as the doctor's ward. Vicky called herself Victor. Later, after a most impressive meal, Vicky insisted that I dress up, and at the king's request. Obviously, I felt ridiculous. But it turned out that King Richard was desperate to make peace with Saladin and planned to offer his sister Joanna in marriage to Saladin's brother, Saphadin. I wondered why he was telling me this, and then it all made sense. The king's emissary had to be suitably attired, and I was to be the one who delivered the message. That's when I became Sir Ian, Knight of Jaffa. The journey to Ramla wasn't long, and I finally met with Sir William de Preaux. It was he who told me that Barbara had been kidnapped by El Akir. You might think that Barbara was in an impossible situation. But while El Akir praised his guards, she managed to escape and hid in the palace harem. I had a more serious problem. Thinking I was a rich merchant, my Arab captor, Ibrahim, had pegged me out on the sand, hoping to find out where I'd hidden my gold. By way of persuasion, he poured honey onto my chest and wrists and made a trail to a nearby ant's nest. I told him my gold was in my boots, so he had to untie my legs. That's when I surprised him and forced him to be my escort to Lydda, where Barbara was being held prisoner. El Akir did discover Barbara in the harem, but he was killed by the father of one of his wives. With Abraham's help, we stole some horses and made our escape. In all our adventures, the TARDIS was home. That's where we aimed for. When we arrived, we found the doctor in a bit of trouble of his own. The Earl of Leicester was convinced he was a spy and had followed him from Jaffa. He was on the point of dispatching him, but I begged permission to do the deed myself, claiming he had caused the deaths of my brothers in arms. He agreed, and as he turned away, we slipped into the TARDIS. We laughed about it afterwards as the doctor operated the controls, and I sat back in his favourite armchair, on course for another adventure. But that is another story.